Hello to all our guests. We are talking today about the magic of contribution from Ljubljana, Slovenia. I'm kind of wondering where you guys from. I can see that there are a few of us online, and I'm hoping we're going to get some good discussion. Just a couple of months ago, in July, we published a book about the magic of contribution. And based on all the replies and feedbacks that we got from global community, from different countries, Taiwan, Vietnam, from United States, from Latin America, and of course from Slovenia, Austria, and some other countries in Europe, we decided to go live and discuss the topic that the book is addressing. And I'd like, of course, your contribution, your discussion, your experiences, because as you could have noticed, we posted some links in a comment line where you can get the entire presentation, the core models and the most important, let's say, words, thoughts, maybe definitions. So we don't need to go in details about what we've done in the last 7 years. My intention today is to maybe walk through it, but basically to talk, to discuss. So I will be looking for your questions and comments at the comment line about the importance of contribution into today's modern world, about some characteristics that prompted the Inco movement, which experiences are covered in the book, The Magic of Contribution. Why was that possible? Why that happened? And is something like that happening around the world? I actually am convinced that more and more of similar movements and efforts have been happening around the world. I was privileged to meet the authors and contributors and leaders and energizers of some of them in the latest global conference on systemic thinking, system science in Vietnam. I met some of them in Taiwan 2 weeks later. I will be meeting some of them, I'm sure, in a couple of weeks in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. And I just kind of feel that it would be really, really useful if we connect directly, either through portals, that we connect our projects, and that we see more than just what right now is the current stream of maybe media and politicians talking, which is the crisis and the challenges that we have with financing different type of projects, challenges that we have with finding new meaning in life for the 21st century. I think the projects like ours, and I'm sure the projects that you guys are leading all over the world, are actually moving us somewhere else, that they are showing us a different type of future, and it's showing us a completely different society that is emerging. And I'm pretty sure that that's going to be a new thrivable planet, and that the society that will emerge out of that thrivability will be for the first time coming from the global sphere, will be coming from a global philosophy and global thinking and mindset. All others seem to be emerging in the past from a particular continent and particular cultural setup. So this is really where I'd like to lead today's discussion and see if we can inspire some of you or invite into the dialogue just by showing some of the results that we were able to achieve in the last couple of years. So why are we broadcasting today? Why now? As I pointed out, it's just this inner call that says, because it's the right time, and because dots need to connect, and hopefully today's show and online streaming of this dialogue will contribute a little bit to this particular stream and connectivity. Why else? Personally, I've been experiencing quite an interesting challenge at my work, at my daily life, at my engagements on the level of local community. And I'd like to share with you some of them. You can see them on the screen, and maybe you share some of them, or maybe you will make some comments regarding these points. I see more and more complex challenges that cannot be really adequately addressed through vertical way of thinking and vertical solutions. What we are after are really horizontal points of view. What we are after are really horizontal models that bring different participants, met-structural participants together, addressing important issues. For example, issues like aging, issues like environmental issues, issues of global peace, issues of global advanced education, which is available to everybody. So all these issues cannot be any more vertically addressed. They have to be addressed horizontally throughout all the structures of a society. So along those lines, I also see that the static structures, rigid organizational formations can no longer be actually adequate enough to address the challenges that I already mentioned before. So we do have to start commonly search for new dynamic structures, those that allow people to readjust, to regroup, to reorganize really quickly, to be able to address the issues, the opportunities and problems that arise. And that also leads directly into the third point I'd like to make, which is that we need, the experiences are showing actually that this linear way of thinking, that we do one thing after the other, somehow just, again, is not responsive enough. And we are moving more and more into this circle type of modeling, into a circle type of addressing the challenges. And that directly, again, is quite an interesting point to discuss, because organizational charts and organizational behavior, as it is known in the professional books, and the solutions that have been offered throughout the last couple of decades are just too planning oriented, which means that somehow they assume that you will know, that you will be able to predict the future. And what we're learning now and what we can see daily is that the future is changing daily. The future is changing by moment to a moment. And it seems like instead of planning, we just need to put more emphasis on modeling, on systemic modeling, systemic thinking, systemic point of view, to try to see as bigger pictures as possible, that then every single little solution that we then make, we can see it, adjust it, and we can actually be able to correctly understand the conditions and the consequences that each of these individual actions will make in relation to the bigger picture. And that's where all this conscious decision-making, responsible decision-making, and holistic decision-making comes into the place. And of course, then we suddenly realize, if we are moving in all this dynamic direction, is the static organization still an adequate answer to that? I don't really know, but what we've been testing for the last 7 years is the concept of a movement. And we started, I have to admit, with the classical approach. Okay, let's set ourselves a vision, let's set ourselves goals and strategies, and let's move on. And actually, we've been quite successful. We were quite successful even in those early years. but somehow it didn't feel right. We were not unable to exercise new formations. We were unable to exercise new ways of cooperation. So we made a kind of brave or bold step into the direction of no structure. What I mean by that instead of setting up ourselves a vision and goals, we said, we're not going to set any visions, we're not going to set any goals to ourselves, but we're going to go and set ourselves a mission. What is the good that we want to create in the society, not only in Slovenian society, but in a broader community? What kind of contribution we would like to make to the global community? And it was more in a sense of understanding this systemic point of view and our role in achieving some higher good that started to drive our actions. And the results were even more surprising. They were much more satisfactory, they were deeper, and the learnings that we got out of the next period of our activities, which came in the last 3 years, I personally believe, and that's kind of response that we get from our members and those that attend our events, is that it has even a higher impact on co-creation of the daily life and, if you want, future in parentheses. So these are sort of the elements that kind of were leading the movement, leading the activities in the last 7 years. But maybe at this point it's good to explain what am I talking about. I'd like to greet those that join us maybe just in the last couple of minutes, and say that we're talking about the book which has a title, The Magic of Contribution, and talks about the role of individuals, groups, and movements in understanding the weak signals that appear in the society and might have a long-term impact on its development. In particular, in the last 7 years, for us, those weak signals were in 2005, innovation as the driving force of value creation. Later on, we added intuition as a new important element of systemic decision making. And this year, we are entering into, we're going to add to innovation and intuition also systemic thinking. These three elements we are addressing in depth. We are basically bringing together experts from all kinds of different fields, discussing this issue, and then as a result we try to create new models that could catch the essence of characteristics of these three business elements and then put them in action on a level of local communities, being useful with the results of our exploration on the level of local communities, and in particular in business environments, in a sense of creating higher value on a sustainable long-term level and with a full social responsibility included in this process. So we're talking about the book that has everything that has happened in this last 7 years in there, all the events, all the models, all the wisdoms and knowledge that was acquired throughout those 7 years is included in the book. And also every single person that made a contribution to creation of this knowledge is also mentioned and hopefully linked as well, that you, if you like it, you can find them or follow them and continue cooperation with those people. So what is really all this content addressing? What is it after? Just recently, when I was reading one quite inspiring book called I believe it's unplugging the hierarchy or something like that. It occurred to me that what we were doing with Inco movement and with all our activities, we were actually helping to move from a triangle of power to a new emerging triangle that seemed to be offering much higher quality to the society, to individuals, and to teams that are created in order to achieve those inner calls and to fulfill the missions that we were all born with. And when I say from a triangle of power, it seems like that our society in the last 500 years, maybe even more, has been somehow trapped in a triangle of attackers, victims, and saviors, whose really the undercurrent motivation was to gain power of some sort. Attacker wants to have a power over other people. Victim needs a power of sympathy, and the savior needs a power of importance. And it's all the time this incredible, and now we know, a destructive triangle that was actually leading the societies. It seems like we've reached the point where we said it's enough. We no longer are willing to play the game, the power game, and we understand that there is something else beyond just unlimited fight for a power, and that's the well-being. Well-being of us individuals, well-being of the societies in which we live, and well-being of the planet in which we coexist. And that's the new triangle, the triangle of life's magic, as I call it. And in that triangle, the truth, the compassion and service and love create a completely different polygon in which we can all manifest, as I said, the best that it's in ourselves, and then create a society where well-being is the highest priority and not the power itself. So just recently I kind of got aware of that, and I realized, yes, that's exactly what the Inco movement was all about, and that's exactly what the book, The Magic Contribution, really is trying to address and trying to encourage and offer some initial tools that I know are just at the beginning of the long, constant improvement stage. But I know that together we can do it. So when people ask, why did you do it in 2006? My answer would be, I don't really know, but there was something inside me that said that that's the right thing to do. And that's how it started. A couple of years later, thousands of people have already joined our events, contributed their energy, their experiences, helped to develop new wisdom, new knowledge. And what I guess what I'm saying is that anybody can do it. I'm nothing special. I'm just the citizens of Ljubljana, of Slovenia, of Europe, of the world, and there are over 7 billion of citizens like that. And I'd like to just maybe give a little encouragement, because so many incredible people were around me and us and the entire movement who gave us an encouragement to make this step. And we didn't have much money, because everybody asked, how much does it cost? It's hard to really answer this, because in a financial sense, we're talking in 7 years about a couple of thousands of euros, that's it. For all these hundreds of events and thousands of people engaged. What really mattered, there was a strong belief that we need to do something. That is, in order to shift the perception of the society that was around us, we understood, and we are still understanding that fact that we have to start the change in ourselves first. So, and as soon as we started shifting our own minds, somehow the environment started to shift, and everything around us started to look different, more encouraging, started to offer new opportunities. And people can argue that that's bollocks and that that's just a philosophy of a dreamer. But come and join us and come and see us, and you'll see that we actually live that life, that we actually daily are manifesting that, and it's not in the books, but in the real life, with the real project, with the real results, in corporate environments, on the level of local communities, in our personal lives. And I'd like to just shortly, since I don't see any questions or comments online, I'd like to just shortly go through some of the steps that we made, and maybe through that get some additional inspirations or comments or similar projects that are happening around the world. So what was, since the beginning of the movement, what our core motion was, we wanted to steer, we wanted to activate, connect as many different participants in the society for the same cause: a better living, a better creativity power to improve the innovation of a society, and just be able to show what an incredible scope of human potential exists in this space. In first Slovenia, but now we're looking at a much global community. One of our partners, Challenge Future, is a global platform for the youth empowerment. And just this year, on that platform, over 37,000 young people contributed their thought processes, their actions, their projects, in order to find good solutions for youth employment, new jobs for youth, and their dream jobs and dream education. And that's something we are trying to be part of. We're trying to contribute our energy to just collaborate and search for solutions on a collaborative level, regardless, of course, of age, gender, and any kind of other orientation. And it all started really with a system evolution. Personally, I was deeply provoked by corporate environments when I started to look at their challenges and realize that there is no universal tool or universal process or a universal methodology with which you could address the challenges in different corporate environments. And throughout the practical work out there in the field, in different industries, in different in companies of different sizes and different, if you say, existing years, I realized that there is more than just what I can see in a sense of differences among them. So I started collecting information and suddenly realized that there are different conscious stages in which organizations exist, and that they're actually the conscious stage of the organization helps us to define what are the proper tools for that particular organization to use in order to move forward. That's how this model of system evolution appeared. And we talk about that. This was in the early stage, and that's kind of prompted also the need for the movement altogether, which started fully in 2006, and the first indicators actually were recognized in 2005. So after this, we understood that there are different forces that drive value creation at different stages, and that we can see this kind of environments in different continents at a different stage. also, at the same time, we realized that Europe at that time could no longer afford to even be in the working environment and base its value creation on productivity, because the three major elements that drive the edge in productivity, which is energy, labor, and raw material, Europe had none of them in a competitive manner. Then in the learning environment, the quality and knowledge prevails, but really at this stage, at least Europe and Slovenia as well, is in the challenge of thinking environment. So how to enable as larger population as possible to enter the creative process and being able to contribute something valuable to the market, something that the market would actually pay for, which is innovation, something new. And just when we started to understand how the innovation behaves as a major value driver, we realized that there is edge as well, and the innovation itself does not happen only in a logical mind, but it actually enters another layer, if you want, or another stage, or another tool, another channel where the information comes from, and that's our subconsciousness, our unconscious mind, and intuition seem to be the right tool to exit that subconscious mind and get the information, which some argue it's even 95% of our decisions that are made based on this information from our unconsciousness. And following this model of system evolution, also INCO movement got very inspired and challenged by. So first years were dedicated to really to grab the innovation as a concept, to get the innovation, to understand the behavior of innovation, to really understand what are the changes that are absolutely needed in order to create good dynamic structure to support innovation. And little by little, through tens and tens of events and hundreds of people engaged, especially journalists, the youth from kindergarten, elementary, high school, university level, from working environments, local communities. We started to gather all this information, feedbacks, behaviors, and started to create models that seemed to be dynamic enough and powerful enough that we could address the innovation challenges with. And if we just check this, we more and more were able to not only logically and rationally understand, but also intuitively behave in open spaces. We were able to, among the members, we were able to overcome the challenge of negative egocentric behavior, and we were able to test and physically experience open innovation ecosystems. And that was an incredible experience, just because it's such a big difference if you talk about something and explore it intellectually, but on the other hand, actually experiencing and feel it, and feel the frustration that happens, feel the limitations that you have once you're entering these dynamic and open structures, and then start addressing it. And that is really valuable for all corporations and for everybody who is actually active member of a society, that we can communicate now that to people and tell them that it is great to be innovative. It is great to have innovation ecosystems, but there is an incredible challenge to our personality, to our behavior, to our known tools that we've used until now, and that we give each other an encouragement to be able to overpass all these blockages, frustrations, and then really fully engage ourselves in this new type of society, new type of structure, new type of environments. As you can see from these slides that I'm showing, all these events were extremely dynamic in the sense of gender, age, different type of industry, and layers of a society present. And this was just going on and on and on, and it is still going every month another impulse, every month another impulse. We learned that if you want to make a change, like a really content change on a level of a, let's say, corporate environment, it takes 3 to 5 years. So when you plan changes, when you want to introduce a new mentality, mindset, of course you can really quickly engage maybe 5% of the population. But that is not a corporate behavior. Excuse me. You have to engage at least 10 to 30% of people in order to really start creating substantial changes in behavior, and that takes time, and that takes patience, and then that takes a lot of persistence. And that's what we've learned. We learned patience. We learned persistence. And we know that every theoretical change could be made really quickly in books, but in human behavior, it takes years. And we need to somehow embrace that, and somehow we need to accept that as part of our dynamic environments. Even though we can stay pushy, we can stay ambitious, but keep at the back of your mind that for a real change, for a real value creation, it takes time. On a level of local communities, which we've been cooperating with for a long time, personally I've been engaged on a level of strategy development for local communities for the last 14 years, with Inco movement for the last 7 years. And we learned that once you want to create a change on a level of local community, it takes 10 to 12 years. And it is a challenge for a modern society that wants to do everything in a week or a month, or at the largest in a year. For a real social change, we need to take a longer perspective. And it is okay to look back in a history. Even the most magnificent architectural buildings were built maybe 200, 300 years. It took architects to build 200 to 300 years. Imagine what an incredible challenge it was to keep competences going on such a long scale. And for us, 10 years is now too much. I hope that we're going to bring more patience through these experiences and actual factual data that we were able to collect and now present, that we will understand these limitations that the consciousness has when it's evolving. Because at the end, if we look really closely, even though I expressed myself in a time scale, I, at the same time, will say there is no time. It is just a level of consciousness. It is just the level of competence of individuals, groups, states, societies to process novelties. And sometimes it is in months, in a year. Sometimes it takes 10 years. And I think we need to get sensitive for those kind of differences and understand which changes are changes that can happen quickly, and which are the changes that take time. And both we need to address professionally and with respect. For example, what I'm showing you right now is this model of innovation ecosystem, stakeholders model. Those are the ones that we identified on a level of local community that we need to work with in order to start creating a change. And those that have little asterisks, we created products and models already for them. This is where we gained most experiences in the last 7 years, and also were able to make a lot of changes. What is new maybe for a broader community, but not so new for innovation ecosystems, is this media innovation journalism segment. In 2005, Stanford University, in cooperation with Vinnova from Sweden, was able to identify media as a very important enabler of innovation development. And they open up a special topic, an area for research and training and education at Stanford University in order to train journalists to be able to recognize innovation, to be able to recognize what is true innovation and to be able to write about it. Especially because innovation has these horizontal characteristics that cannot be trapped into a media section or economy section or finance section, but it works across all of these sections when it appears. For example, a new material that is developed for space industry suddenly is revolutionizing food industry, clothing, sport, and of course economy that is driving all that. So we see this interconnectivity and close interrelationship between different types of old structures, and innovation taught us to look at things from a systemic and horizontal point of view. And we've done a lot with media. With a very humbled approach. I cannot ever say that I can tell to a journalist what to write. I mean, that would be a really, really bad statement. Only thing I was trying to create was a space where journalists can learn. I was shocked when I started to talk to them in 2005 and learned that in their entire business lifetime, they are not sent to any trainings, that they're just not educated for their profession. They are just responsible for themselves, and they have to write and find the ways to create the stories based on their own imagination and their own intuition and their own sort of experiences. And what we try to do within Inco Movement, we created a space where they could learn. We try to provide them with as many literature or links to the information that is useful for them and that they can use in order to write a good quality articles or other media contributions on the topic of innovation. We kind of supported them with the special rewards for the best efforts and the largest contributions that they made in broader acceptance of innovation as a concept. And I think one important step was also that we were able to, here in Slovenia, kind of engage in the cooperation. Also a state structure responsible for scholarships, and they supported every year one journalist to go and be trained at Stanford University for the topic of innovation journalism, through which they were able to establish the global networks with journalists of similar kind from all over the world. And I'm sure even today we can see differences in writing of those that are willing to learn and understand the behavior of innovation and those that cease to actually make an effort. So anyway, my point here is that we learned that in order to make a content and philosophical change, all the participants of an ecosystem need to be engaged. And just what this last slide that we are showing presents, here are some great minds from all over the world. You can see the older gentleman with white beard. This is Windsurf. He's a father of internet. He wrote the first TCP/IP protocol. As soon as this topic of innovation journalism, innovation communication popped up, he knew that that's the right one. He joined and gave all his support in order to be able to bring people who wanted to explore this topic and contribute some tools and understandings to a global society. Right here next to him is Curtis, the director of Stanford Research Institute, the most profitable institute in the world, actually, really successful. And he also understood immediately that if you want to be innovative, of course, you have to first know how to communicate what is your invention and which is and who is the market that you are addressing. That you are addressing with this innovation, what are the needs that you are identifying, and what is the value that you create with your ideas, your inventions for that need. And this is just fraction of what was happening in the last couple of years on a global scale, and I'm really happy that the INCO movement was able to be an active member of this global society that was co-creating understandings and the directions in which innovation ecosystems were evolving and still are evolving. Of course, the most important part was the youth, and we paid lots of attention to youth. Most of this was volunteering work. Here and there, local companies, like in this case Trimo, would support us in our efforts and contribute to the manifestation of workshops for kids in kindergartens, elementary schools, high schools, in these different reward systems that we were initiating throughout Slovenia in order to gain attention and collaboration of all these different types of participants. But mostly and a lot has been done as volunteer work. And then maybe that's the reason why this was quite successful as well, because there is just so incredible human energy, honest energy that just wanted to contribute without pushing, without requesting, without really demanding, but just offering services, offering proliferation of thoughts, offering different types of discussions. And we never got ourselves trapped into the goals. Oh, we have to engage that many people. We have to achieve that. But we were just constantly amazed what emerged out of our efforts. And maybe this has a little bit of a new energy that might be worth exploring. So a different type of attitude to life. So if we wanted to just briefly go, we are pretty much coming to an end of today's meeting, and I'd just like to really briefly share a couple of models with you, and again, welcoming, I can see some new people entering the space, and I would just like to invite you, maybe those that you were not with us from the beginning. This live streaming, of course, will be later on available online, right, Peter? I have a colleague here in the studio that is dealing with all the technology. You also can click on some links that we provided you with, and you can get access to this PowerPoint presentation, and also, of course, access to the book, which was the reason why we met today, The Magic of Contribution. There is one more model that we have not talked much about, and I'd still like to address. And that's the latest model that was created through the exploration of intuition. In the last 2 years, we were able to manifest 17 different events on the topic of innovation. We invited experts from field of physics, biology, shamanic realm, from psychotherapy, from medical field, of course from business, and so on. And with each of those guests, we were exploring, first of all, the understanding of intuition, and then the meaning of intuition. And the result of that was that we somehow came up with a new model of holistic decision making, which besides experiences which we gain through manifestation, and which we call basically the directly gained knowledge, and knowledge that is gained through learning, and it's actually an objective knowledge. We like to just bring a really serious attention to the channel of intuition that is accessing this unconscious knowledge that is gained through so many different channels. And while we were exploring that, it was so sort of almost magical to see how biology, how genetics have been evolving in these last 2 years, how physics, the knowledge on a level of quantum physics and beyond have already opened so many new doors to these particular topics. And so we're not going to give up on this topic. We started to meet artists and learn from them how they use intuition. We are meeting in fall actors and directors, movie directors, to see how they are using intuition, and try to learn as much as possible from them as well. And I'm pretty sure that at the end, there's not going to be any end. There will be just yet another edge, and on that edge we will discover yet a new topic to explore, and that's the magic of exploration and the magic of curiosity, because there is no end, and that's a great feeling. And we talk a lot about this in the book as well, and share the experiences that we've that we were able to acknowledge and consciously understand at the end. Of course, that would never happen if we just closed our doors and tried to do this behind the closed doors. So all the time we were trying to find different type of groups that are also exploring some elements that we shared, or that they were right there, that we meet them right there on the edge. And I just mentioned here some of them, because with them we actually created common events or even explore some particular topics, but there are many, many more, and you can see their links on our web pages. There's just such an incredible community out there, and that's what I'd like to learn more. And please send me links. Whoever has similar challenges, whoever has similar experiences, I'd love to share with you, or listen to you, and explore with you your findings and your missions, and of course your deep insight incentives that lead your life, that engage you in life. And I'm sure that these are the foundations of the new thrivable communities that are part of this exciting new civilization that we are just about to enter, or maybe we are already there, but we are just sensing some major characteristics about it. So at the end, what shall I say at the end? Well, all I can really say is I'm deeply thankful to life, and that I have these incredible opportunities to be part of all these challenges, to be part of all these circles, to be part of all these really, really deep explorations that bring us close to nature, close to the universe, close to ourselves, and then inspires us to develop constantly new also tools with which we work and manifest all these competences and insights and visions that we have on our journey. At the end, I maybe going to close with this, is that more and more I'm convinced that the movements are a very serious social structure. I'm not saying they're going to take over the world, but I think we're going to see more and more of them because they can really serve as a vehicle to a sustainable evolution and this thrivability that we, many people can already sense and they want to see in this planet Earth. And hopefully the Inco movement experiences are just adding a little bit to this rich global pool of knowledge and wisdoms. And here we go. I'm sure we're going to be able to cooperate and move it even further and challenge it even further and co-create this wonderful new society that I think we all deserve. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you to Peter and his organization that made all this live streaming possible. And I'm really, really looking forward to maybe meeting you at one of the future meetings or forums or your live streamings. And I'm looking forward to possible projects that we might do together in the future. All the best to all of you.